Hello and welcome to Jason Talks Geek. I'm Jason Inman, and this is a new weekly show that I've been wanting to do for a while now, where I can talk about geeky things and create geeky conversations with geeky people about things that spark my interest. And it is so telling, and I think just about right, that my first guest on Jason Talks Geek is Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and be just about right for your pilot episode.
You're like the porridge and the bears. Like, there's no other person I could have started this show out with. It had to be you. And
Aww.
Yeah. And just let everybody know, you, of course, are the co-host of the Geek History Lesson podcast and Comic Book Now, right?
I am.
So thank you for joining me to talk about geeky things. Let's jump, as I mispronounced jump, right into the discussion and talk about some geek things. All right. First off, Injustice 2, or as I was calling it on the DC set the other day, Injustice number 2.
Number 2.
I just think that sounds better. I don't know why. Injustice number 2.
Well, Injustice 2 sounds like it's another world.
Yes. All right, so Injustice 2 trailer, it dropped just ahead of E3. It didn't really show us anything, just has some fights of Superman versus Flash, Batman's in there, Aquaman's in there. You see Supergirl shows up in a new uniform.
True.
And they all seem to have modular armors, where the armors are changing around. And also the voice of Bryan Cranston gave us some good chills in there. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you notice Bryan Cranston there?
No.
It took me a second. I had to figure out who it was. I was like, I know this voice. I can't figure it out. So we know that Supergirl is a new character in Injustice. All right. I thoroughly enjoyed the first Injustice. I think you enjoyed playing Catwoman.
I did.
In the first Injustice.
And I also enjoyed the comic book.
The comic book is great. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
The comic book, the digital release, is a great series. But I wanted to ask, what DC character, and I'd even allow Mortal Kombat characters because a couple Mortal Kombat characters showed up in Injustice number 1. What DC characters do you think need to be in Injustice number 2? Yes, I'm going to keep calling it Injustice number 2.
So my first thought was Supergirl, and then I watched the trailer, and Supergirl was in the trailer, so I had to throw that one right out the door. So
you were extremely happy.
I was right on brand, and I had a whole plan about how you could have like a skin where she was a Red Lantern, and then they were...
Oh, you know what? I bet you they have that skin.
Right, so me and Warner Brothers were right in sync.
Damn, you went marketing with this, too. You were like, she could have a skin where she has a Red Lantern. And Warner Brothers is like, we got you. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. So then I was like, well, that was a good idea, clearly, so I shouldn't go that far out of the wheelhouse. And then I thought that Bizarro is a character that you should have show up in Injustice 2.
Okay.
Because for me, Bizarro is kind of a twofold character. There's kind of a tragic element of him that you could play, or there's the straight up monster element that you can play. Because I'm leaving the goofier, funnier one. I'm leaving that in the comic books.
So you're saying that he could be a character that you could kind of design just like Superman, like they did for Zod in number 1, or you could kind of make him the Bruiser character and make him the Solomon Grundy.
Yes. So
like the first one.
Either way, you get to use a pre-existing skin, so it's not going to take that much time to develop. And depending on the kind of storyline that you want to develop with him, because I know like there's the straight up levels where you're just fighty, and then there's the story mode. So depending on which one you want to use him more for, if you want to make him more of the Bruiser, he'd be great for like the one-on-one fights. And then if you want to do an actual storyline with him, make it like he's really sad and he's trying to live up to Superman, but he can't do it. So I would have all of his powers. Obviously, you just copy the Superman skill set and change the colors around a little bit, but maybe make him weaker than Superman, and part of your quest is that you have to find or get so many points that you get to upgrade, and your goal the whole time is to best Superman. That is what I would do with Bizarro in Injustice number 2.
Interesting. I would be completely surprised if Bizarro was not a skin for Superman in Injustice 2.
Oh, well, I want to make him
but you want to make him a character, which I think is totally valid. It's totally just fine.
Thank you.
If there's a character that I could add, I was thinking about this, and I was trying to think about a character that could add something to this game.
So you're going story mode with your idea.
Well, it could be either or, because some of the downloadable characters from the first Injustice really had nothing to do with the storyline, right?
Yeah, totally.
So Batgirl really didn't have much to do.
But was awesome.
Yeah, and then there was also General Zod, who really didn't have much to do, and then Martian Manhunter really didn't have much to do with the storyline.
I do hope, though, that with the Supergirl, you get to fight Martian Manhunter, like that's a story point, because I think for the new TV show, that would be super cool. Just sidebar.
Well, sidebar, I don't even know what the storyline of this thing is going to be, because they kind of settle it in the first Injustice. So, like, Injustice year 2... No, not year 2. Injustice 2, year 1 comic book, you got a lot to live up to.
Crisis on Infinite Injustices?
Something like that. Mike, so I was thinking about a character that could be unique, could fit into the game, but would give us something that we didn't see in Injustice number 1. And I settled on Blue Beetle, and not Ted Kord Blue Beetle.
No.
I settled on Jaime Reyes.
Okay.
Because he has the armor, and his armor would kind of make him a character like Cyborg, so he could have a blasty cannon, and the scarab could come off his back and crawl along and attack somebody.
Oh, dude, that would be so cool.
Also, you can deal with magical elements with him because his armor is sort of magic-y, technologically based. So he's sort of a magical, technological character. So you could do a lot of different stuff with his armor. He could do camouflage mode. He could do all kinds of things like that. And you just make him like in the story mode, you make him a recruit for maybe Superman. Superman comes along and is like, hey, Jaime, join my team. And he's like, well, you're Superman, of course.
Yeah.
And then over the course of the game, he's like Spider-Man in Civil War.
See, he's a great character too if you're looking at it from a design and a marketing perspective, because you could sell more skins with him to give him like bigger, badder armor, or that could be something that you earn throughout the game. Like there's a lot of potential with his physical design there.
Yeah, and he would have a good look. His comic book look translates to the video game immediately.
Done. Sold.
In the game. So we talked about what characters we would want in this game. I want to do something that I think is kind of fun. Because Jason Talks Geek, I think, is all about the conversations. We're not just giving you the news. We want to, have some fun with this, have some discussion. What DC character should we never, ever see in Injustice, in any of the Injustice games?
Okay, so I took this question to heart, and I didn't just want to pick a character that I didn't like, and just because I don't like a character doesn't mean that someone else doesn't like them.
That's what I did. Sorry.
And doesn't mean that they're not a valid choice or whatever. So I tried to think about practically who's a character that shouldn't be anywhere near this sort of combat situation, right? With this level of kind of depth to it.
Can I make a guess?
You can make a guess.
Ma Kent.
No, I didn't go Ma Kent. Well, originally I thought any of the Gotham Academy kids.
Okay, it's
because
a good
I was
question,
like, they would all just be like Aquaman would just drop the shark on them and the deal is over. But then I thought, well, I would try to go for a character that transcended the DC universe a little bit more, and I went for Lois Lane. Because Lois Lane is a hugely important DC character. Some people like to argue she is the greatest of all female characters in the DC universe. And although there is a really great DC online cartoon where you see her basically doing Batman's job for him and saving the day, I don't think that in the universe that Injustice has set down in that Mortal Kombat kind of thing, I don't think she's an asset. Like, what are you going to have her do, like throw a pen at someone?
But let me posit this. In DC Rebirth, Lois Lane is Superwoman. Are you saying Superwoman should never be an Injustice?
I'm not. I'm saying that Lois Lane.
But Lois Lane is Superwoman.
Lady Reporter.
Lois Lane.
Yes, there you go. Superwoman,
all
maybe.
right.
But your classic Lois Lane, your later in the purple suit, in the white skirt from the animated series, I don't think has a place.
I'll let you slide by on that one, but I don't know.
Let me pause at my arguments for the Gotham Academy kids then. How about you? Who do you think should not be anywhere near
Well, as I said
Injustice?
earlier, I went with a character that I think I don't like.
Sure.
People out there can like him. I think the only time I've ever liked him when he showed up in Batman R.I.P., and that is Batmite.
Ooh.
That is the little fifth dimensional imp that looks like a tiny cartoon Batman with a potbelly.
Yeah.
I don't even want to see it as a joke in an Injustice game because I don't know what you would do with it. But I will fold my question a little bit, and I would love to see him as an Arkham Knight bonus level.
Oh, interesting. Super interesting.
So you have to play as Batmite, and you're like, bloop, 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 walking through the level and just kind of like trying to hit people with your bat. I don't know what you do with Batmite.
Okay, let me pitch you what you do with Batmite in Injustice.
I totally want to hear Batmite in Injustice.
Batmite in Injustice is a standalone level. He doesn't get to go anywhere else.
Okay.
And he fights Mr. Mxyzptlk.
Okay, so it's a two-person face-off.
Yeah.
And it's a singular battle.
Yeah.
That you have to unlock.
Yes. Or you can buy, depending on how the marketing team wants to go with that.
Okay, I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
But for me, those two characters kind of are integral to making that kind of fight work. If you take either of them out of there, it's either not funny or not fair to the rest of the characters in the game.
Well, because they'd either be too powerful or just too stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
But Mxyzptlk, I think, should totally be Injustice. Mxyzptlk.
There you go.
You have to put that S in there. It's Mxyzptlk.
I'm just going to say Mr.
Yep. There you go. That's what happens when you do too many DC voiceovers with the hat. You have to say that name. All right, so I think we put Injustice to bed, so let's move on to the next Geek Talk topic. It was announced this week that a little known character. He's slightly known. He might slightly be on my T-shirt, and he might also slightly be in the background of the video that you are watching right now.
There's 2 people on your T-shirt.
I'm talking about Superman. And Supergirl moved to the CW, and it was announced that Superman is going to appear in the first 2 episodes of Supergirl. And they stressed Superman because I've heard a lot of talk where people are like, well, it could be Clark Kent.
I think those are the Smallville people thinking that.
We've seen Clark Kent in text. We've never seen Superman fully figured, so that means that they have to cast Superman for TV. Ashley.
Yes.
Who should play Superman on Supergirl? What actor would you like to see?
Okay, the actor that I would like to see if I'm the casting director and I can pay him whatever he wants to show up is
Liam Neeson.
If it was a voice.
Okay.
Yes. Why not? Let's go for... Actually,
I'm Superman.
He'd be a great...
I have a particular set of skills.
If he does his American, he'd be a great Jor-El. But
Yes,
I would take Matt Bomer from White Collar and The Nice Guys and the Magic Mike. I would cast him as Superman. Now, I've been saying for years that he is my ideal adult Nightwing.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's going to happen. And he's like pushing 40, so...
Oh, okay. So you're making the concession that you want him to be a superhero, and this may be the only superhero you get, so let's just do it now.
Yes, and he has made, since White Collar ended, he has made a transition to movies, but I think you could get him back for like a 2-episode arc.
Well, yeah, let's have no illusions here. Okay, whoever they cast as Superman, he's only going to show up once or twice. If Supergirl gets to season 3, which we don't know.
But we pray.
But we pray, yes. Superman's only going to show up max 4 times a season.
Yeah.
Max. I think you get him for maybe 2 episodes in the beginning, maybe 1 in the middle, and one at the end. Well, whoever they cast as Superman, I think they're crazy if they don't lock it up in the contract to put him in the big 4-part Legends crossover. Like, you got to have Superman in that too.
Yeah. So I think Matt Bomer's a great actor. I think he's
interesting choice.
Super good looking. He's really fit. So like all of the aesthetic things that you are looking for in
has there never
Superman,
been a fit Superman? Has there never been an
unfit Superman?
In your standards, has there never been a fit Superman?
No. I just mean that.
You're like that Brandon Routh was good, but man, he was not fit. Ever.
I'm not going to talk about my feelings about Brandon Routh Superman.
No, you're together.
But I just mean that, when you make your list of the physical characteristics that you are looking for in Superman, I think that Matt Bomer is somebody who embodies it. I think he's a lovely human being in interviews, so he's someone who I think could carry that torch of, if I'm playing Superman, I'm going to act like a nice human being out in public, which for me is a very important choice. And I think he'll work for TV money. So that's why I think Matt Bomer would be a great Superman on Supergirl. How about you?
Well, when I thought about this question about who should play Superman on Supergirl, there are obvious choices. There are rumors of Tom Welling, who signed a deal with CBS, the actor from Smallville who played Superman, who I think would be a fun fan nod.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it's going to happen. I'll be blown away if it happens. Okay. I actually will be very happy if it happens. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I just don't think he's going to come back to the role.
I just think that since he never put the suit on in the first place, you're not going to convince him to come back and put it on now.
Although he is older. He's about 5 years removed from Smallville now, so maybe he's in time. But anyways, Tom Welling, I think, is out. I've thought about this long and hard, and I thought that maybe it should be an unknown. And I sort of went with a sort of unknown, although he's who George Miller, Mad Max Fury Road director, who was going to direct Justice League Immortal, he's who he picked for his Superman. And I thought, who am I to argue with George Miller?
He's Australian.
So I went with DJ Catrona. I may be completely mispronouncing his name, but that is who George Miller cast for Superman. He's in the TV show From Dusk Till Dawn. He has a good look
for Superman.
I cannot speak to his acting ability as Superman, but I kind of feel that Superman's not going to be in this series that much, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And like most superheroes, you just have to have an amazing presence.
I was just going to say that. I think that is going to be the most important thing about casting this
He
Superman.
looks like Superman.
Okay.
He looks like Superman, and he gives a little bit of an ethnic edge to Superman as well.
Which we could always use more of. Works out with Wonder Woman.
So that's why he's my choice. I felt If he was good enough for George Miller, and he's still age appropriate to play Superman,
Good.
I think he's good enough to play him on Supergirl.
On the CW.
And it would also be the fan check again as he almost played Superman, so let's give him the shot.
That'd
So
be really interesting.
so we kind of fill in both boxes. Like we give them an unknown, but we also give them somebody who sort of played Superman before.
Yeah, someone who means something to the deep cut fans.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that's a very inspired choice. Well
Yes.
done.
Let's ask the question. I talked a little bit about Tom Welling. Who do you think it should not be? Who should not play Superman or Supergirl no matter what?
Tom Welling
That's fine.
and Brandon Routh should not be allowed anywhere near Superman.
Why?
In my humble opinion. Because for me, neither of them was a great Superman when they had the chance.
Well, let me pause this. Tom Welling, even though you saw him in the last 10 minutes of Smallville as Superman, you never saw him in a full body. You never really saw Tom Welling as Superman.
Right, and that's my whole thing about it is there's been many Superman actors who, and I mentioned a little bit before, really take on the responsibility of I am Superman, and they understand what that icon means to pop culture, to the citizens of the world, and to their fans.
Yes.
And for me, I don't think Tom Welling gets that, so I don't want to give him another chance at it if he didn't do it in the first 10 years that he had a chance.
You have some Tom Welling hate.
I do have some Tom Welling hate. That is a true and scientific fact. And I think Brandon Routh, I don't like his Superman movie either, and I think he's killing it as the Atom.
Have you ever watched Superman Returns?
I've seen like half an hour of it in Spanish, and I didn't like it.
Ashley Robinson, you can quote her right now. I've seen. I want to see that on the DVD. Superman Returns. I've seen about half of it. I've seen about a half an hour of it in Spanish.
I can't wait to see that on Walmarts all over the world.
Oh man.
But I think
This is actually pretty good. Scott Nance. I've seen about half hour of it in Spanish. Ashley V. Robinson, and we love Scott Nance.
There you go, we do. But the positive thing I was going to say is I think he's killing it as the Atom. He's taken a character who nobody cared about, and he's made us all really invested in that.
Very true.
So I think that why would you want to confuse audiences even more by having him show up in the two universes? Because if Superman does show up in the crossover, which is a very logical leap to make, I mean, he's going to get a better paycheck, so like good for him. But I think it would be a poor choice as far as structuring scenes and story points would go.
Well, Brandon Routh, I think, is just like Tom Welling. There's no chance in heck that he is going to be on the role. They won't do it. They're not going to double cast him.
I'm so relieved.
But I will posit this. I didn't think Brandon Routh was a very strong Superman. I thought he was a great Clark Kent.
Yeah, but those are different things.
I agreed.
They are.
Agreed. But that, I thought, was the strength of Superman Returns. I thought him as Clark Kent was really good because he wasn't bumbling Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
You could sort of understand why they would have hired this guy. Whereas Christopher Reeve, you're just like, there's no way. I love his Superman. Superman the movie, one of the best superhero movies of all time. Let's get that out of the fact. So
Definitely.
Before you come at me hating, I love Christopher Reeve. I donate to the Christopher Reeve Foundation every year.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've had my accolades of why I love Christopher Reeve. Cool. His Clark Kent would never have been hired, ever.
But he's so tall and good looking.
That's not enough.
It is in the capitalist world. It totally is.
Not for the Perry White in Superman the movie. That Perry White would have punched that Clark Kent in the face.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Brandon Routh Clark Kent, very capable.
Okay, so you marry him with Chris Reeve Superman, and you have a great two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Yes. A Superman and a Clark Kent that aren't jokes.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to the next Geek Talk topic.
Ooh.
John Boyega has been cast as Idris Elba's son in Pacific Rim 2. Now, Stephen S. the Knight's going to direct, it's called Pacific Rim Maelstrom. I'm just going to call it Pacific Rim 2.
Yeah.
And you learn that Boyega will be the son of Stacker Pentecost. Did I say that right? Idris Elba's character. Because we lost Idris Elba in the first movie. Spoilers.
Oh, it makes me cry every time.
You and I are big fans of the first Pacific Rim.
Yes, so let's get that bias out there. We really like it.
It's the best dumb fun movie ever.
Totally.
We stole that from Honest Trailers, so there you go. But what do you want to see for Pacific Rim 2? Now, I asked you this before the show. I kind of wanted to know what would be your fun, pitch your fun idea for Pacific Rim 2.
Okay, my idea's not fun.
Whoa. Your idea is bloody and a hellfire?
No, it's sad and emotional because it's me. But I have a lot of thoughts about this, actually. So
when I asked you about this, you were like, oh man, It's about time he asked me about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually held off talking to you about it because I knew we were
Pacific Rim 2. Go.
So the interesting thing about the first Pacific Rim movie is a lot of it has to do with family, and it has to do with legacy, and it has to do with losing your family. So I want this to focus on the drift, because the drift is this very ethereal, almost mythological thing that Charlie Day kind of sets up ad nauseum in the first
Well, let's explain
movie.
it. It's where the two pilots, you have to combine your brain to be able to drive the Jaeger.
Yes.
Which, by the way, doesn't make sense.
But it's a cool idea, so I don't care.
Sure, let's go with it.
But every time somebody dies, they always say, like, find me in the drift. I'll be in the drift. So I want this movie to be John Boyega's odyssey through the drift to find Idris Elba.
Are you making him the lead character?
Yeah, I'm presuming that he is the lead character.
Okay,
I mean, this is Star Wars guy. He's a bigger deal than Sons of Anarchy guy. So I don't necessarily need Idris Elba to come back to life, but that's what I'm hoping, is that we get some sort of closure on their relationship, because in the first movie, we had no indication that Pentecost had a relationship with anyone other than the Rei Ayanami ripoff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting that he has a son, and I want to know, did he know that he had this son?
Okay.
Because my inclination would be no, that he
Has no idea.
Yeah, and that John Boyega just learned this, and he comes to the base that we've seen in the previous movies, trying to figure out his father's legacy. I want him to speak in his British accent, because we have Idris Elba speaking in his English accent, and we have him doing American for Finn. So I would like to see that to kind of tie in that maybe they grew up in the same neighborhood or something like that. And I want that tie, those familial bonds that were so integral to the first one, to carry over into this one, because even the Australian guys, who are like total jerks for most of the movie, get that nice father-son moment at the end when the son goes off to sacrifice himself. So I would like beats like that repeated, like everything that's strong about Pacific Rim. The first movie I want in the second, but with more of the kaiju mysticky nonsense explained a little bit.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. You gave us a lot of character arcs and a lot of emotional beats, which is fine. That's great. What's the plot of this movie?
So you have to have a reason why Raleigh and Mako aren't together anymore. Because
You're breaking them up.
I'm breaking them up.
Okay.
Look, they never kissed, so it's not movie official anyway. So
That's your criteria?
That is my criteria.
Okay.
I also thought it was super weird that they didn't kiss at the end of that movie. Like, they survived the end of the world, and they popped up in the ocean, and they're like, we're just going to press our foreheads against each other.
But we got to cut to credits. We got to make the audience wonder, Ashley.
I think it was supposed to be a note of, like, it doesn't have to be a romance, so, like, this is just our mutual respect / love, but I thought it was super weird. So I think that you have to have one of those characters, because there are going to be carryover characters from the first movie. You have to have one of them, and they go out and seek John Boyega, or John Boyega shows up to seek them. You repeat your training montage that you saw, you figure out that they're drift compatible, and then through John Boyega's quest to learn about his father, you have either Raleigh or Mako, whoever pairs with him, they learn what happened or where their respective other person in the relationship is, and then they can mend their fences that way. So you have two people searching for lost loved ones in the drift, and they both find something that they need, and they reconcile their emotional problems by the end of the...
So they're just fighting the monsters again?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to be.
Okay.
That's what it's going to be. I don't know if they're coming from the same hole in the ground, but like they're going to come from space this time, or they're going to come from the Atlantic. Like, they're going to be fighting monsters, because that is... It's a kaiju movie. That's the crux of what it is. So, and you have to find a way to parallel their emotional lives with that, or else you're just watching the, Japanese Godzilla movie again. So that's my pitch, fathers and sons. Yeah, so what do you want to see in Pacific Rim 2?
Well, I went very plot-based.
So we went the opposite.
So my Pacific Rim 2 is that something comes out of the rift again. Okay, we thought we had killed everything on the other side. Well, something comes through the rift again. It's sort of like a kaiju, but it's bigger and it reacts differently, and we just barely beat it. We barely beat it. Okay. So I think that the World Council is like, oh man, we thought we had killed them all. Apparently we didn't. We've got to send a team through.
Okay.
We've got to send a team through. We're going to send a team of 3 Jaegers through the rift to their side. You guys are going to kill everything. You're probably not coming back. Sorry about that.
Do it for humanity.
Yeah. And so finally, you're going to learn that John Boyega is one of the biggest Jaeger mechanics in the world.
Interesting.
And that you're going to learn that eventually, at the end of the movie, you're going to find out that he is Pentecost's son.
But you don't think that's a given fact at the start of the movie?
No, nobody knows that and stuff like that. And I think he knows it. I agree with you that this is a bastard son that Pentecost didn't know he had.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get through there, but it's going to come into the plot that he can drive some of the Jaegers because he has the same ability just like Pentecost.
Yeah, because
like
he was able to pilot the Jaeger that he wasn't a part of before.
So 3 Jaegers go through, Mako and Riley.
Yeah.
Boyega's going to drive one, and then maybe we'll give the crazy Australian or some other crazy ethnic team is going to drive the third one.
Yeah.
Okay? They're going to get new weapons from Charlie Day. And the other scientist, Charlie Day, is going to be having visions because he mind melded with somebody.
Totally.
Ron Perlman's going to give him some bombs, so Ron Perlman's there. They're going to go through to the other side. So most of the movie is going to take place in the other world.
The one that we just saw a glimpse of toward the end of the first movie.
But I'm going to say that we steal things like the hell dimension, like in Constantine. And Constantine hell look exactly like our world, except it's really weird.
Yeah.
So I say that their other rift is a dimension that looks just like ours, except a little weird. So that way we can see visions of our New York, but it's like this demonic New York or whatever.
Oh, really cool.
So we get to the other side, and we learn that the kaijus are just kind of all sitting there, and they're just like Jaegers, and we blew up their makers and their drivers, but there's something worse out there. And that we're going to learn that the reason they came through our side is because they were being chased by something. They were like trying to steal resources.
By the super mecha kaiju.
Yes. And eventually it's going to lead to all their Jaegers are going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And you're going to have John Boyega's team and the ethnic team. They have to figure out how to kind of Jaeger drive these other kaijus.
Ugh.
Yeah, and so they're going to be inside the kaijus like driving them like Jaegers. Or maybe they sit still and they drive them forward. And Mako and Riley are going to have to revitalize the half-destroyed Gypsy Danger.
Heck yes.
But the only way we can save him, Gypsy Danger, or she, is to combine Gypsy Danger with half of a kaiju. So it's a half kaiju, half Jaeger, Gypsy Danger fighting the new threat.
You talking about them piloting the kaijus reminds me of that episode of Battlestar Galactica where Kara has to pilot the Cylon ship, and it's half organic and half metallic, and it's like really gross, but it's instinctively, it works the same way as their machine, so that's why they would be able to do it.
Yeah, but I wanted to take, because I didn't want just a movie of them fighting the robots and fighting the kaiju. I wanted them to the kaiju are just like the Jaegers, and we can control them, and we can do this stuff. It's a different type of machine, but it's biological.
Do you have it end with an uneasy truce between the kaiju and the humans?
I don't know. You could do that, but I kind of feel the opinion that the people or the species that controlled the kaiju are all dead.
Okay.
But their kaiju have been left behind.
Oh, okay.
So, and now we got to fight a different thing. So the species that ran the kaiju, just like we run the Jaegers.
That's really cool.
And the species that ran the kaiju are all dead now. That's the kind of way I kind of would run it. So that we have to use the kaiju and the Jaegers versus the new thing.
All right, Legendary. So you take Jason's plot and you take my character arcs and you call us here and we can just write it for you and it'll be super great.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. So we're going to move into the next section of this, Super Questions, where we answer some of the questions that you guys gave to us on Twitter and YouTube. But first, let's talk about some support for some geek stuff. Now, I wanted to let you know that this show happened exclusively because of my support from my Patreon at patreon.com/Jawan. I want to thank all my patrons out there. But real quick, we're going to do more stuff with Ashley. So it's not just this.
What?
And you can watch the video exclusively on patreon.com/Jawan. Jason Talks More is what we're going to call it. And 5 more minutes with Ashley. They're going to get to see it 2 weeks ahead of everybody else on YouTube.
Nice.
And they get to see it early. So go on over there, support all the kinds of stuff we do. Lots of exclusives like other Geek History Lesson stuff and everything like that. Patreon.com/Jawan is where you make everything on this channel happen, guys. Let's move into some super questions from you out there in the internet world. And you guys can always, if you're wondering what I'm looking at my computer. You guys can send us new questions with the hashtag JasonTalksGeek. We started with hashtag JTG. We found out there was a pro wrestler out there. We decided against that.
Hats off to you with all respect.
Yep. Hashtag JasonTalksGeek, or just tweet at me personally at Jawan. The first question comes from Carl at Embermore. Which DC book or story arc made you love DC Comics?
Well, for me, and I think this might answer another question that's coming up, the first DC Comics that I started buying were the New Teen Titans, the Marv Wolfman and George Perez run. And that was because of what I had seen in the cartoons, and I really loved Robin, and he was on that team. So their whole arc, I burned through not in the correct order as a child, but it doesn't matter. And that's why I love DC Comics, and that's why I love legacy characters, and I love origin stories, because that's basically what the Teen Titans are.
So it's the new Teen Titans and stuff like that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. How about you?
For me, I think it's the death of Superman. I had read some Batman books before the death of Superman, but the death of Superman was the first one where I got to see the Dan Jurgens Justice League at the time, which had like Booster Gold and Bloodwind and Ice and Fire and Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
And then like some other heroes showed up in that, like Lex Luthor was there. It really made me realize that there was a world.
That it wasn't just Batman is over here, Superman is over here.
That there was a legacy. That there's this Lex Luthor, and it's Lex Luthor's son, and we didn't know that it was Lex Luthor originally. And then there's this Supergirl over here, and then there's LexCorp, and then Lois really likes this guy, and then who's this Bibbo guy, and who's this Hawk guy? Like, it made me realize that, like, oh, there's this whole universe out there, and this whole universe really cares about Superman, or really doesn't care about Superman, however you want to look at it. But that's the book that really made me, I would say, interested in DC. The book that made me love DC, Green Lantern number 51, Kyle Rayner, the introduction of Kyle Rayner. And Kyle Rayner's adventures made me love Green Lantern, made me love the DC universe, because he was the everyman character, and I got to experience the DC universe with him. And
that is still a book that we both recommend to people when they're looking to jump into Green Lantern.
Sadly, it's not out in trade.
Find it on the internet, because it is a perfect start over. They explain everything to you. It's very friendly to a new user.
Yes, totally.
And Kyle's great.
Kyle is great. All right, let's move on to the next question from Timothy Weber at TWebBond. What is your favorite TV show? Now, what is a TV show that you really enjoyed, or a favorite superhero TV show? I'll allow the Netflix ones.
Sure.
What do you think?
So I have
it doesn't have to be all time. Sorry to interrupt.
I have a Marvel and a DC answer.
Oh.
Because I think they're both very different.
Look at you overachiever.
I know. I'm pro both big two companies. So my favorite DC TV show of the past year is Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Because when I heard it pitched, I said, that sounds real dumb.
That's never going to work.
And then I saw the
Quoted
cast.
Ashley, the girl who once said, I've watched a half an hour of Superman Returns in Spanish.
And then I saw some of the cast members, and I was like, maybe. And then I saw the pilot and I was like, F yeah. I think it does all of the things that The Flash does, in that they do super, super comic booky stuff that you never expected to see on TV. I think it does it better a lot of the times. I think that you can tell that that's where the money is going. And I think for the most part, with a couple exceptions, the cast is on point.
Great.
And because it was so short and so self-contained, most of the episodes are like on par with the best episodes of Flash and Arrow, whereas I feel like because Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl are so long, you get some episodes where it really drags.
Yeah.
Like Legends trucks, because they got stuff to do and they got to do it in 13 episodes.
And they only have 16 episodes.
Yeah, 16 episodes.
16.
We reviewed them all, and I don't even remember. It's got to be Daredevil. Because Daredevil, to steal your description, is the Wire of comic book shows.
And just to let the listeners out there know, this is coming from somebody who's never seen The Wire.
But in a way that it is dark and it is gritty, but it still feels grounded, and it doesn't feel like you're bashing yourself over the head with how dark and gritty it is. And for me, there's a lot of surprising casting choices that really shine. Like, I never thought that the chubby friend from Stardust was, like, gonna be good as Daredevil. But Charlie Cox knocks it out of the park. Yeah. He will be my Daredevil forever going forward. And I think that the amount of care and design that goes into that show deserves a lot of respect, even if Daredevil is not your favorite superhero. So yeah, Legends and Daredevil are my two favorites.
I agree with Legends. Legends is my favorite comic book show for every reason you said, for the simple fact that it's so fun and it introduces so many comic book characters that I never thought would ever work. I mean, spoilers for the finale, I never thought I'd see Hourman in any live action anything.
I never thought we were going to get Jonah Hex back.
Yeah.
And he rocks.
He was good.
I want him to come back.
He was really good. Just for the simple, it does get pretty cheesy at times, but you know what? It's so fun that I don't care.
There you go.
But I just don't care. All right, and our final question comes from Joel at Joel from SD. What was your first comic book you ever read? I thought this was a great question for the very first Jason Talks Geek. I can go first. My first comic book was Batman number 466. It's still my first comic book that I've ever read. It hasn't changed.
It doesn't change every couple weeks.
No. This is the first comic book I've ever read. It was a cover that I saw after I saw either Batman or Batman Returns, the Michael Keaton movies. I don't remember which. And it has Batman tied to the bottom of a rocket, and you could tell that the rocket's about to light off, and it's going to explode Batman. And I saw that in a Walmart when Walmart used to sell comic books, and I was like, I have to figure out what's happening to Batman. And I enjoy the issue because it's Batman going through a theme park. You learn that rocket's part of a theme park.
Yep.
It's like a Six Flags. And it was very early on in early Tim Drake times because Tim Drake, Batman several times during the issue is not certain that Tim can handle it.
Yep.
But the end of the issue is that Tim saves Batman.
And if I am correct, you still own that very same issue.
I do, and I have it framed. I've kept that forever. It's the very first comic book I ever bought. Ashley, what was your first comic book? You kind of alluded to it earlier. Just confirm it for us.
I did. Well, it's actually probably like a Tintin comic book or like an Asterix and Obelix. But the first one that I bought with my own money that my father gave me was the New Teen Titans number 39. It is an all-white cover, and it has Dick Grayson and Wally West, and their costumes are Kid
Very
Flash
iconic
and Robin
cover.
costume. It's a beautiful cover. Are just hanging over the sides of like the logo, and they're lying pooled on the floor. And when you're like a child and you see that, you're like, but why are they leaving? And you don't understand that it's comics and they'll be back in the very next issue.
It's
and
comics, kid.
It was at the time in New Teen Titans when Tara was still on the team and
Yes.
nobody knew that she was a betrayer. So it sets up a lot of the iconic New Teen Titans storylines that gets translated into the cartoon. And it was like all Robin all the time. So I was on board.
Nice.
Bought it for $0.25.
Nice. All right, so the final section of this new show is quick review where I ask my guests what was something that they read, they watched, or they listened to this week that they really enjoy and that they would really recommend. So what is something very quickly that you read, watched, or saw that you would recommend to the lovely people out there?
Okay, I'm going to give something that I read, and I'm going to give a DC Rebirth book, and I'm going to give Wonder Woman. Yay!
Wonder Woman what?
Wonder Woman Rebirth number 1.
Okay.
Now, I will caveat this. It's not the greatest issue of Wonder Woman I've ever read, unfortunately. But it is setting up what is to come for Wonder Woman, and it's setting up her two major storylines. And because I'm not a super fan of the way the previous Wonder Woman series ended, I liked that we had her addressing what some people would view as not the strongest choices. We know that she's making a definite change. We see the new costume, and you see that this Diana is going to be less of a pushover, for lack of a better word, than maybe she was in previous storylines. So I like that we're seeing that Diana is going to be treated with a different sort of respect than she had been previously. I like that this is a launching point. And the 5 pages of Liam Sharp arc are great.
Great. I would recommend Flash Rebirth number 1 by Joshua Williamson. Great art by Carmine Di Giadomencio. I might have said that wrong. I'm sorry. It's a really good issue. Joshua Williamson, a friend of ours, rocked it. Knocked out of the park, and if you're a fan of the Flash TV show, that's the perfect issue for you to come in. You don't need to know anything else. It's perfect. So pick it up. Cool. So as we close out this very inaugural episode of Jason Talks Geek, Ashley, please tell everybody out there where they can find you.
Well, you can find me with Jason on Geek History Lesson, where all fine podcasts are had.
iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.
That's right. And you can also find me here reviewing Game of Thrones every Sunday night.
Or Monday morning.
Depending on when we fly back. And those reviews will keep going on for another few weeks until Game of Thrones ties up this season.
And also Comic Book Now, right?
And Comic Book Now, yes. Every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on the comicbook.com Facebook page.
Guys, thanks for watching. This has been the first Jason Talks Geek. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know out there, it's going to go get better as we go forward, as we try new things. We might try some different things with the set. Eventually, there will be an audio version on iTunes. Not yet. There's going to be a couple weeks still learning out some kinks, but we're going to change some stuff. We're going to have some guests. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Jawin, Jawiin, because that's where you can tweet me about people that you want to have sit beside me. Ashley will obviously return more and more, but we're going to try to get some different people in here and see what we can do. Don't forget Geek History Lesson and Game of Thrones, as she said, and you can always support this show and many more on patreon.com/Jawin. Don't miss out on Jason Talks More stuff with Ashley Robinson. Guys, that's it, and I'll be seeing you next week.